So, welcome back to a new season of Faith and Sustainability. I'm your host, Kat Doyle, and unfortunately, it's with much sadness that I let you know that in mid-March, we lost a great green voice, a dear friend, Leonard Robinson, my co-host. But as Leonard would have said, the show must go on. And so I thought it would be only fitting that we dedicate today's Earth Day episode to Leonard's memory. But before we get started, I know nobody could ever fill Leonard's shoes, but this is our new co-host. This is Rob McDowell. And he can't fill Leonard's shoes. He's going to sit in Leonard's seat. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
And I know this isn't the best circumstances to start a new gig, but I'm absolutely positive that Leonard would have appreciated the fact that we are going to continue to honor this hard-built legacy of the work he's done with the podcast. So maybe we'll start by, do you remember the first time that you met Leonard?
I do very, very well. It was right here in this space the first time that he asked me to be on the podcast because I had worked with our mutual friend Susan Varlamoff on developing the Laudato Si action plan for the Archdiocese. And I was on with Leonard once, and then he had Susan and I on again. And
I was at that one.
You were at that one. That's right. That's right. And then, of course, once I joined the Archdiocesan Laudato Si initiative, I had the pleasure of meeting with Leonard virtually and in person since last summer.
He was a character.
He was a character.
Totally unforgettable. I do remember the first time that I started working with him. I had asked the Archbishop, then Archbishop Gregory, if I could bring somebody on to help me do this Laudato Si work. And Leonard was one of the people who applied for that opportunity. And I went back to the Archbishop and I said, I found two guys and I can't decide between the two. I want to bring them both on. And he kind of looked at me as like, okay. And I said, no, you don't understand. They are both so different and they bring such unique traits to this. And so they said yes, and I invited him in. And at that point, I also brought on Brian Savoy. And with Leonard's passing, Brian asked if he might say a few words about Leonard. So let's listen to what Brian had to say.
Leonard was one of a kind. I enjoyed working with him as our team planned and began the Atlanta Laudato Si initiative in 2020. His passion for God's earth and people, his years of experience in industry and government, and his perseverance in pursuit of his passion enabled him to make a unique contribution. Leonard literally used his voice to shine a bright light on the vital connection between faith and sustainability, and we will miss that voice.
So Leonard shared with us a lot about his work in California, which shaped a lot of his worldview, his understanding of sustainability. He was their sustainability director for 4 different governors of both parties. And he made historic inroads in the greening of California, which is a really big thing to do, but only Leonard could have done that, I think. And I remember him sharing stories about his work with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Governor
Yes.
Schwarzenegger at the time. And Leonard always reminded us, it's not about politics, it's about the relationships being built to make things happen with the greening of California or anywhere. More important than the politics.
I think that is important because it is those relationships. And he had a really great relationship with Susan Varlamoff, who you worked with.
Yes, old friend.
Especially in bringing our Laudato Si action plan into the digital era and all of that. And so I thought maybe the other thing would be is to give Susan the opportunity to tell us a little bit about her work with Leonard. So let's take a listen to that.
I met Leonard Robinson about 7 years ago when I heard him talk in Atlanta on sustainability and thought he might be a good addition for the Archdiocese Laudato Si initiative. My husband and I invited him to our home for lunch, and we discussed his background. His experience working in environmental protection with 4 governors was impressive. His range of work stretched from heading up regulatory agencies to working on California's climate action plan. Environmental justice was his particular interest and concern. In fact, when we worked together on the second edition of the Laudato Si Action Plan, he insisted that we look at each topic through the lens of environmental justice, and this was an important improvement over the first edition. I convinced him to join our merry little group. In fact, we were a group of retirees who were devoting our lifetime skills and expertise to the work with the Catholic Church, believing that with an enlightened Pope who wrote this encyclical Laudato Si and a membership of 1.4 billion people, we could be change agents in climate change. Our program was richer for Leonard's involvement. He brought light to all he did. His upbeat spirit, despite his health challenges, was remarkable. His rock of sense of humor kept us laughing. His intelligence and understanding of so many environmental issues increased the depth and breadth of our program. His persistence in hosting a faith and sustainability podcast resulted in the first discussion of this subject in the nation. His deep, beautiful voice, his range of guests resulted in an award-winning podcast. I will miss Leonard, but his legacy of work will remain a testament to a life well lived. May he rest in peace.
Leonard was a resident of Cobb County, and he attended. He was an active parishioner at St. Thomas the Apostle in Cobb County, and he loved talking about local Smyrna and Cobb County environmental issues. He loved talking to the local elected officials there, just how we did in California, building the relationships with the people who could get the work done that he wanted to see happen. He was very active in Keep Smyrna Beautiful. He was a real advocate for sustainability, not just here in this podcast, but in his hometown, in his parish. Everything around Leonard was about having sustainability being part of their lives. And he had some of those local officials here on the podcast.
He did. And every time he brought those on, I thought what was really great about his work is that he really lifted up and elevated what was happening here locally and became that local voice that crossed between the faith community and the broader community. In addition, I know that this podcast was his baby. He spent over a year every week reaching out to communications and saying, are we ready to start? Are we ready to start? And he was full throttle, and we were trying to get everything lined up. And one of the stories he would tell is about his radio program that he had. And when he had moved from California to the East Coast, he started a radio program, and he was known as Enviro Bro. And he would wear his hat that said Enviro Bro into the office frequently. And we all thought that was pretty cool. But it was that voice and that passion from his radio time that he really brought to this podcast. And in making it his own and embracing it, I have to be honest with you, if it weren't for Leonard, this podcast would not only not exist, I don't think we would have been anywhere near to getting to talk to all the interesting people that he knew, those relationships that he had developed.
Well, thank God for Leonard in that case. And he did indeed know everybody. He never met a stranger that he was not intimately friends with. That's one of the things that I loved about Leonard was even when he barely knew me, had just met me, he's one of these people who radiated a joy. He had some health problems, but you would never have known it. He just gave off this friendliness, this warmth, this sense of joy just at meeting you. He wanted to know what everybody was doing in their lives to make sure that they were okay and to make sure that they were living sustainably. And he always asked people about their faith experience and the intersection of faith and their faith life and then their sustainability actions on a daily basis. He was a remarkable, remarkable man.
When we were talking with the director of communications here at the Archdiocese of Atlanta, she told me that she considered him a gifted extrovert. Now there's extrovert and then there's gifted extrovert. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about. Alan, our producer, he always loved to lift up his colleagues, and he would always remind our listeners that Alan was an award-winning podcast producer. But that's the type of guy he was. He wanted to put others first. He wanted to lift them up. And that's why the stories that he brought us on this podcast were so good. He was always trying to give people a chance to share their stories. He also, I think he knew everybody in this building, and he could never walk into this building without stopping first with the receptionist, asking her about how her day went and what was going on. And so his loss really has hit a lot of us hard and left this very empty space in our lives where we were used to interacting with him.
Well, he's going to be a very, very difficult act to follow, but I will do my best to make Leonard Robinson proud.
You know, I think the other thing that we have to remember is that this is his legacy. And so
Yes.
I encourage our listeners, go back and listen to some of those early podcasts and hear how he really pulled the stories from those people that were on the podcast. Listen to what was important that he makes sure people know. And it wasn't just somebody's, what am I doing sustainably, but how did their faith intersect with that? He was really big on making sure that. He also never wanted to let a guest go without asking them either for some little tidbit that they could share with people or a call to action. So I think he talked to you about a call to action both times
Absolutely.
that you were on
Absolutely.
here.
Yes, indeed.
Action was important to him. It wasn't just talking the talk. He wanted the story of how people were walking the walk. So as we move forward in this podcast, one of the things we want to do is stay true to Leonard's legacy and what he wanted. And he would tell you the show has to go on.
Yes.
So he would, I think, be disappointed if we didn't move forward with this. So we're going to. We're going to move forward in his memory.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
So from chatting with the nuns who were trying to bring the prairies back to life to the talking about sustainable branding to talking to the people who were working with the African youth movement, he was all about interesting and unforgettable stories that he brought to the episodes of our podcast. And he was always wanting to make it the best he could be. We now are going to make a pledge to try to do just that as a tribute to Leonard. And that's where we're going to go forward from today.
So going forward, please make a note that we're going to start airing our episodes every other Wednesday, which is a change. It'll be every other Wednesday. And look for that NFL replay, Leonard's favorite episode on May 6th. And then be sure to subscribe and like us so you don't miss a single episode. And we will try our best to do Leonard proud.
So thanks for being with us today as we celebrated a life well lived. And said goodbye to our friend and our colleague. He will be missed. But as he would always remind us at the end of every episode, we look forward to seeing you next time at the intersection of faith and sustainability.